Greetings and welcome to another edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. Discovery Season 3, Episode 3, People of Earth, has been released, and I watched it this morning and took my notes, so I'm going to tell you what I thought of it. I guess we're learning a little bit more about what happened to the dilithium. In the opening of this episode, it's mentioned that dilithium went inert everywhere in the galaxy simultaneously, and that active warp cores just detonated at the same time. So that paints a little bit more of a picture of what happened to dilithium. We still don't know how, but I imagine that's forthcoming. Of course, Saru says later that he has to make up a lie as to why his the Discovery's dilithium isn't destroyed, and he says we weren't at warp at the time. So I guess the ships that did survive were ships that were not moving at the time at warp, and so their dilithium just went inert, like the rest of the dilithium, I guess, in mines or wherever else it was. So that's just interesting information we didn't have. When the first episode of this season aired, and then even again when the second episode aired, or was released, I should say, and I watched them, I said, this season seems better so far than the other two seasons because there isn't anything happening in them that breaks the fourth wall and reminds you that this show is way too futuristic for the time period that it originally was set in and that the ship comes from. And there's nothing in it that reminds you that, hey, they're doing stuff on this show that doesn't track with what was done, or in the case of the Spore Drive, which I'm about to talk about, what was never done in any other iteration of Star Trek ever that takes place after the beginning of Discovery and after the creation of the Spore Drive. And I thought at the end of the first season, okay, they said, we're going to stop using the Spore Drive because it's inhumane and dangerous or whatever. And I thought, okay, they're setting the building blocks for why they're going to explain later, hopefully, that the Spore Drive was never used at any other time in later time periods in the universe. Then in season 2, they used it a bunch of times, and I said, and of course, when we get to the end, they say, okay, we can't talk about Discovery anymore, or the Spore Drive, or any of that. And I thought, okay, they finally, in a ham-fisted way, explained why nobody knows about the Spore Drive in the future. They just buried it. And I'm thinking, now they're going to the future. So once they get to the future, I'm thinking at this point in time, they're obviously not going to use the Spore Drive because I don't know why I thought that. I don't know, because they had discovered that the mycelial network was being endangered when they use it. I thought that was something they came out with in season 2, or they just wouldn't. I thought the writers would finally wake up and go, okay, we got out of that hole. Let's not use the thing anymore. I guess that's what I was thinking. Not so much that a story reason existed, but that the producers realized, okay, we use the Spore Drive, then we say we're not going to use it anymore, then we said you can't talk about it anymore. We put that to bed, and it explains why it doesn't show up later, and now we're just not going to use it, and they say they're using it. They're using the Spore Drive again to get to Earth. Why? Why wouldn't you use the warp drive? I mean, I guess they were in a hurry, and it's faster than using warp drive, but we don't know where they landed. They could have said they were close to Earth and that they just used the warp drive so as not to use the Spore Drive, to stop bringing it up. You're in a new century. You're out of the canon loophole situation or whatever, the canon contradiction situation. Stop using the thing when you write these stories. Stop using it. I was happy to see Saru promoted to captain officially. That was pretty cool. He's a good character. The Discovery has an official captain once again, and we can be pretty sure this one isn't going anywhere. So that should stay with the show and be consistent for the first time in 2 seasons and 3 episodes. They showed the repair bots again, which is again, they went to the future to get out of the continuity problem, right? So that stuff they would do wouldn't keep messing with the continuity. And I said after the first 2 episodes aired, I said, yep, I like these 2 episodes. They didn't break the fourth wall. They didn't break any continuity stuff, but the ship wasn't really in them. It was in the second one, but it was like on the ground. It didn't really do anything. And I said, I know when the stupid ship comes back and it's in the stories and it's up and running and doing things, they're going to do things that remind the audience that the ship is from a time period that shouldn't have the technology that the ship has. They went all the way to the future to get out of the canon trap, the continuity trap, and they just keep bringing up this stuff by showing the advanced technology that the ship shouldn't have, no matter what time period it's existing in. Why? Why do you have to show the repair bots? Why? It's gratuitous. It doesn't need to be done. It's an effects shot that's stuck in there for bells and whistles purposes. Stop doing that. You take me out of the story when you remind me that the ship shouldn't have these things. They get to Earth, and Earth has a force field that's activated by, I guess, interspersed little force field generators. That's cool. It's technology we've seen in other sci-fi and that we, are familiar with the concept of. It might even have been shown in Star Trek before, I don't remember. But it's one of those pieces of technology that doesn't seem so advanced that Earth didn't already have it. Like Rura Penthe had in Star Trek 6 some kind of a shield covering it, right, where you couldn't beam through it or whatever, or locate people, well, you could locate people with the beryllium patch on the back, but that you couldn't beam through it or whatever. So it's not that far-fetched of a thing that it would have existed in, the time periods that we've seen on other shows. So I wonder why they just never did that, and all of a sudden now Earth has a force field, like, because it's the future, and now they have this, I don't know, maybe it's not a big deal, I should let it pass. Speaking of force fields and shields, then we have this Earth Defense Force, or whatever it is, confront Saru when he arrives at Earth, and they're like, no, you can't come in here, we're going to inspect your ship, and he's like, okay, I'll prepare this. No, we're coming now. They appear all over the ship, even though Saru had raised shields a moment before. Since when can you beam through shields on Star Trek? And why didn't they mention that they were able to beam through the shields? Why didn't somebody go, sir, they beamed through our shields? How did they do that? They don't mention it. It's just normal. You can beam through shields. And why didn't Booker know about the force field on the Earth, just to go back a bit? He doesn't say anything. They tell him they're going to Earth. He doesn't say, oh, by the way, when you get there, there's an Earth Defense Force, and they don't take kindly to ships creeping up on them. Oh, and there's a force field. Like, why doesn't he mention all these things? Now, we don't know that he's human. We don't know that he's from Earth. We don't know that he's ever been to Earth. I can't remember what he says about ever having been there. But assuming he's never been there, assuming he's not from there, it's frickin' Earth. It's the center of the Federation, the center of Starfleet, and he definitely knows what those things are. So why wouldn't he have mentioned, oh, by the way, there's a story going around that Earth has a force field and they're very aggressive when you approach the planet? Doesn't mention it. Doesn't seem to know it. Then they figure out that the Earth Defense Force people have a traitor in their midst who rigged something on the Discovery so that they wouldn't be able to beam back out. And they'd be stuck there, all because she wanted to stay. Okay, whatever. So that was a thing. So there's a traitor among them, apparently. And then, you see a lot of reviewers on YouTube and online, on just various discussion sites or whatever talking about how Michael Burnham is always treated as like a messiah by the writers, like she's always the one who always comes to the rescue, who always knows best, who always fixes everything, who can always do anything. And I never really noticed that. I mean, sure, she's depicted as the hero and she does come in the clutch now and then, but I never noticed that it was a pervasive thing where here we go again, Michael's saving the day. Apparently it is. I don't know. But it definitely was in this episode. It definitely was in this episode. And it's always when she's disobeying orders or always doing something contrary to what her higher ups or the authorities want her to do, right? So in this episode, what is it? She goes into Booker's ship with Booker and they leave the Discovery without permission to run this gambit against the guy that's attacking the Discovery because they think they have a way to resolve the situation. She doesn't consult Saru. She doesn't let him know, hey, I have an idea. She just goes and does it. And I don't know if she's been doing things this blatantly like this all along and I just didn't notice as much as other people noticed, but this time I noticed. And it's like Saru's like, oh, there goes Michael again. Oh, Michael. Like, why does she do that? Why must she always go rogue and just make it the Michael Burnham show? You know what I mean? Literally, like, not the show, but like make her life the Michael Burnham show. That's what she does on this show. She makes the whole thing the Michael Berman experience, and that's how she lives her life as a character. And of course it worked. Of course it worked, you know, and nobody else ever thought of this, right? This guy has been like terrorizing people for some period of time, stealing dilithium or doing whatever other hostile crap he does. And their little trick just suddenly works. Nobody ever thought of this very simple trick. Hey, let's convince him we have something he can't resist. And then when he lowers his shields, we beam over and grab him. Because apparently he has the kind of shields that you do have to have lowered before you can beam over. Only Michael Burnham could think of this trick. No one else. They mentioned quantum torpedoes during all of this business, and I'm not sure why they brought that up. I guess we've heard of those before on Star Trek, but like, what? Why would they have quantum torpedoes? I don't know. It was just a little thing. But you know. Oh, and by the way, when they do finally get this guy right and their trick works, they beam over to the Discovery with him. Nobody notices. Nobody says, an unexpected transport just occurred. Again, presumably through the shields, which I never heard them lower, but maybe not. But nobody notices this. She just shows up on the bridge, you know, Deus Ex Mikey style. And that was a coin that was termed by either Doomcock or Nerdrotic or Midnight's Edge. I can't remember, but Deus Ex Mikey. She just shows up on the bridge, you know, at the last second. No one says, oh, a transport just occurred. Really? I don't know. And of course, the guy is just a giant head in a jumpsuit, right? This is the character they came up with. Let's put a giant head on a character and a jumpsuit, and it's an alien. That's an alien. You know, like that one crew member that's got the giant head that looks like a fly crossed with a bumblebee or whatever the hell it is. It's just a giant head in a jumpsuit. That's it. That's an alien. But of course, then the giant head turns out just to be a helmet. And only Georgiou knew this and ripped it off the guy. Nobody else, they're all stunned. They're all like, you know, high level, shouldn't say high level science, but they're all very well educated and well trained scientists and Starfleet officers. They couldn't tell it was a helmet. But Georgiou can because she's awesome sauce. Surprised Michael didn't recognize that it was a helmet. So she takes the helmet off. And then, oh, they have a little conversation and all is forgiven. They reached a taunt and the guy's going to back down and the Earth Defense people are going to help him and all nicey nice. I don't know. Then the saboteur person, whose name I guess is Adira, she's one of the new characters that they came up with. for this season. She's just roaming around the ship. And Stamets finds her and says, "I know what you did," and they have a conversation. But she was just roaming around the ship. Like, I know they beamed over to inspect the ship, but then the shit hit the fan. So, like, why weren't they all recalled? Why were they still roaming around the ship? Why was there no crew member liaison with them, observing them? Like, what? She's just roaming around by herself, not with any of her own people. No one from Starfleet is like attached to her, on the ship. No, none of the Starfleet crew on the ship is attached to her to follow her around to see what she does, what she touches. Nope, she's just roaming around by herself. And then she and Stamets have this conversation where he starts spilling the beans about where they're from and how they jump around. And I'm like, no, he didn't. Tell me he did not just blurt all this out to a stranger. Like, what the hell? And then she asks him one question and he goes, well, I don't know who I'm talking to before I can give you any more detail. I've only told you 85% of everything that I shouldn't have told you, that we didn't tell your boss, that we kind of want to keep on the down low, but I just told you all that. But that one thing you want to know, I've got to know who you are first. I got to tell you. Oh, it's so bad. So bad. And again, I'm a person who resisted saying that the writing was bad on this show up to this point. I just found a lot of other problems with it, and I never really thought the writing was particularly bad, but that was particularly bad. That was a stupid moment. And to be fair, if you look at my reviews of the first 2 episodes of the season, they wrote some dumb stuff, some dumb scenarios. But that was really stupid. I thought this is the kind of writing you would get from a fan production, like not the 2 top ones, Star Trek Continues and Star Trek New Voyages, but the less professional fan film companies that are out there making fan films of Star Trek and whatnot. That's the kind of writing they would do. I just couldn't believe it. And I'm not impressed with this character so far. I literally know this character is going to be so bad. Wesley 2.0. And I'm one of those people who tried not to shit on Wesley, right? But this is Wesley 2.0. The way this scene resolves, the way he is talking to her, the way she's talking, it's Wesley Crusher 2.0. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this was just a first impression that's incorrect, but it looks like this is going to be a Wesley situation. And I don't know if this is the Trill character. This is not the transgender character, right? Because there's a transgender character, but this is the Trill character. And her story is interesting. I'll say that. She's human, so she's not a Trill, or she's another race that's not Trill, but she has a symbiote in her somehow. And so she has trouble accessing its memories. So that'll be interesting because we've never seen really a Trill symbiote in a non-Trill host for any long period of time on Star Trek. So, or who has been in a non-Trill host for a long period of time. So we're going to see how that goes. That'll actually be interesting, assuming they don't blow the writing on that. But I think otherwise this character is just going to be so bad if it continues to go the way it went in this episode. Oh. I made a note that the scene between Tilly and Michael in the hallway was really cool, where Tilly's talking about, they didn't get a chance to say goodbye to people and everybody in her family is deceased. And I thought that was a really well crafted scene and beautifully acted, I have to say. I enjoyed it a lot, that particular scene. I like the Tilly character a lot. I don't think she's Starfleet. I don't like how they've got her as a Starfleet officer, because she's not Starfleet material, in my opinion, most of the time. But it's a great character. And I think Book is cool. I have thought this since episode 1. I think he's a great character. I think he and Michael have great chemistry. I think the way they've written the scenes between those two is really, really good. I never really thought much of her scenes with Ash. He was supposed to be her love interest. They were a couple. I never really got it. I never really got that relationship. I didn't feel any chemistry. I didn't feel a great deal of chemistry between her and Spock. Now, that's not entirely fair, because Spock is a character that doesn't have, emotion really, and same for Sarek, and I didn't really feel chemistry between them, but they're supposed to be family. So you'd think there'd be some level of chemistry. I never felt it. It all felt like bullshit to me between those characters. Her and Amanda as well, didn't feel it. But between her and Book, I think they're doing a great job with the characterization, and the chemistry really shows. I think the actors probably have, good chemistry, at least as far as working together goes. So that's probably helping, if that's the case. But I do like the Book character, and I like his relationship with Michael. I think they do a good job with it. So now we await next week. I will be back with my reviews every week. And, until then, all I can really say is thanks for watching, and peace and long life.